Welcome back, guys. We are the Jersey Comic Crew, and on today's episode, we're talking about the hard questions of the Bad Batch. Will there be Force-sensitive clones? Come on inside.
What's up, everybody? We are the Jersey Comic Crew. Chris just said we were talking about Force-sensitive clones in the Bad Batch. Now, guys, before we talk about this, make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe, do all the great YouTube stuff so that way we can keep the channel growing and keep making more content for you. And this is your spoiler warning. We're going to spoil some events that happen in the Bad Batch to answer the question, are there Force-sensitive ghosts? Are there Force-sensitive clones coming in the Bad Batch, right? And now, the reason we are asking this question is because the last episode, episode 3, The Replacements, we saw the Lama Su and Nala Se, the two engineering creative minds behind the clone process, talked about Phase 3 clones coming, right? And they needed, this is the ultimate clone that's coming out, Chris, right? And, what else could it be besides a Jedi clone or a Sith Lord clone?
I agree. And the term Omega in general is the end of that library of words, right? So Omega seems to be the last of the original clones, Phase 2 clones, whatever that may be. Phase 3 is a massive open-ended question, and I love this conversation because it was kind of like 30 seconds to a minute, and it opened up this massive door into all these possibilities, and I definitely want to know what you think about this, Rob. So Phase 3 to me means either two major things that we could delve into. One is the obvious, right? Kind of like more of the Bad Batch style of clones, right? The defective parts of the clones perfected, whether it's like Crosshair's sniper abilities, Wrecker's strength, Hunter's tracking, and knife skills, yada yada. And that becomes the new clone. Because clearly, Nala Se, Lama Stu have a problem on Kamino, and it's that they might go out of business, right? And from what we know at the moment, it seems like Kamino's entire kind of GDP and money and finances come from this cloning facility. What happens when that goes dry, when the money well goes dry?
I get that.
So the first instinct is obviously, all right, so the Bad Batch originally were thought of as defective, problematic, this isn't what we want. What if that becomes the exact prototype of what we want, and we have Crosshair here? Could that be the perfection?
So I could see that being the it's fun to have the Force sensitive one. I'll get back to that in a second, right? But talking about the specifically where you said the enhancing the quote unquote divergent or the off-centered abilities that they have and highlighting those in the new batch and the Phase 3 clones trying to make the ultimate super soldier. I could see that being a thing. You take the original Boba Fett and then you have Crosshair taking their stuff and making this weird hybrid. That's probably the more realistic angle that they're going with, right? And Omega could be the end of the original line, or she could be the first in the new one that they try to experiment. Hence, our previous video we talked about is Omega Force sensitive. Maybe this is she's the first one, and she maybe has glimpses and pieces of it, but she can't really tap into it, and they keep trying over and over again. It also could be just more groundwork of them creating these artificial Jedi and Sith Lords down the road. They could use this as their experiment. First, they're going to try to make genetically perfect super soldiers, right? Once you best tracking, best hunting, strength, and all that kind of stuff. If they perfect that, then the other aspect, which is their connectivity to the Force, could be viewed as just another skill set that this clone could have it to be the ultimate person, right? So it could be them trying to make a clone trooper, right, that has multiple abilities, like Wrecker and Hunter, let's say, right? 2 abilities or 3 abilities, and they keep exploring to that. To eventually their end goal could be a Force-sensitive person. Now, I don't think we're going to see them make a Force-sensitive clone, but I think we're going to see them talk about that, right? They're going to lay this groundwork. Because I'm on the bridge. I'm on the bandwagon early that Star Wars is going to get to a point where we're making artificial Sith Lords and Jedis down the road past the new saga that we're in now, right? Movie-wise. So this could be another stage of that. There were plans all the way back then to make this perfect person, and they just didn't have the technology. We saw that develop throughout the later course of the Star Wars universe. But ultimately, to stop my rambling, yes, we're going to see that. We're going to see these clones with multiple high-end skill sets probably towards the end of this season, next season.
So I agree with you. I think there's more than likely going to be tests, at least.
Correct.
Into this sector of like force sensitive cloning. And I think that splits into two avenues too. And I'll try and make this as simple as possible.
Mm-hmm.
The first avenue is what we've seen already, even though it relates to the sequel trilogy, which obviously a lot of people aren't big fans of, including me and Rob. But that avenue has been explored already with Mandalorian and obviously with episode 9. And what we mean there is Mandalorian, we know Dr. Pershing, who was the one who originally was kind of trying to get DNA from Grogu when Mando came in and saved him. He had a Kaminoan patch on him. He works for Kamino. In season 2, when they go and destroy that like empirical base, like on the planet where they find all those vats of people that look like the kind of the beginning of Snoke almost, those were also Kamino patch doctors there as well. So we know Kamino in canon will still be working on something down the line for the Empire. And obviously that may relate to once we get Emperor Palpatine back in episode 9. Now here's the other avenue that's a little bit wild, but you know me with theories.
See, I thought my theory, which is like your first one, was wild, but like what's the wild one?
So the wild one is
Mark Hamill.
Clone him. We keep him as for long as possible.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But my theory is this. We've seen Star Wars, especially now with Filoni and Favreau, they've been giving them a little more room to kind of take stuff that they really liked from the expanded universe, non-canon universe. We've seen it with Thrawn. Thrawn's now integral in Star Wars canon. What if they do that with another character? And that character would be Starkiller.
Who's that?
He is the original Vader's apprentice from the old video game series, The Force Awakens. Oh. Now, in that series, Starkiller's played by Sam Witwer, who does the voice of Darth Maul now. And in the first one, spoiler alert, if you haven't played it, it's like 20 years old, he dies.
Okay.
And then Vader clones him, and he comes back in the sequel as a Force-sensitive clone, and he's going through like trying to remember his past life, doesn't realize he's a clone, he's going nuts. He turns on Vader and becomes kind of like a Jedi, like a middle of the road gray Jedi.
But that's a clone Jedi.
And in that first shot, which you'll probably see on screen, there was just he's trying to make as many of him as possible to perfect it. And could that be something they take expanded universe? Could that be like, hey, Stan Witwer's character, you can it's an old character. You can make him look like Jango Fett's original clone face, right? In this cartoon, you can make him look like one of the clones or one of the Bad Batch. Could it be this kind of dark, Force-sensitive, probably Sith in the beginning at least, clone that they'd perfect and maybe give to Vader because he's around during this time?
I tell you, that'd be amazing if this show, The Bad Batch, ends or like leads up to, because like I don't think you could do that right away, right? Like, because that's huge, right? Like, it ends and results in this clone of this character being created and then dying, right? Like I think he has to end, right? Like, the Bad Batch fights off against this guy. They all get kablooey. But the fact that it happened canonically, if that's the right word I'm saying.
Canonically, yeah.
Oh, look at me being smart.
Very good.
But, like, that means in the future, we're going to get Rob's theory, and I'm going to be right, and I'm going to be dancing. I'm down.
Dancing. But yeah, imagine
dancing.
like
I like that. I think that's pretty cool.
And that could be like their prototype test, right? Hey, we figured out how to get the Force sensitivity DNA, whatever, in there. Also, possibly very small chance connection to Grogu, right? Because we know Grogu was getting tested on. He's alive right now. He's very young and hiding.
At this point, yeah.
At this point, is that something where it's like a Force sensitive being is connected to? But we know that, hey, maybe this could be the prototype. That's before we get to like, hey, they were working on building a Snoke. Like, instead of just some killing machine that Starkiller was, like the guy brought a Star Destroyer down with the Force.
And he's a Bad Batch, right? He's a Bad Batch of these clones. Like, you play in that word, like these Phase 3 clones could be Bad Batches themselves and go rogue and like be evil incarnate. But like what you're saying with this guy and like being around, I'm really on board. But my question is, when they did Grogu, where that takes place before Palpatine, right? Not Palpatine, before Snoke.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And Grogu is the same age as Anakin.
Okay, thank you. That
So
helps me. Okay.
he was alive during Anakin being like in the prequel trilogy and becoming Vader. He's just ages slowly, so he's 50 now, but he's still a baby because Yoda was like 900 something. So, like, he was raised at the Jedi Temple. We don't know how he escaped Order 66, but Grogu, clearly they were testing on Grogu's something with like
On his
people from Kamino, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or people who work for Kamino, Dr. Pershing and all these other characters.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen it twice now
Yep.
in 2 seasons of a show that isn't really about that, right? So
It's all about breadcrumbs, man.
and here's the overall kind of logic question, right? If you're Lama Say and Nalasu, and you're on Kamino and you're a prime minister and you're the head scientist and your funding goes through all of this and you're the leader of this and you're trying to keep this planet on top and funded and money coming in so people can eat, yada yada yada, wouldn't your last ditch effort to keep, you know, the one kind of huge money bag coming in be kind of balls to the wall, whatever possibility that can happen, be the one logical explanation of what is going to have to happen, right? They're going to have to make Force sensitive clones in order to keep the Empire interested in keeping them on retainer.
And here's the thing. What if we find out Omega's Force sensitive, right? Like, what if that's true, right? Which I'm thinking more and more that's going to be the case, right?
I think she is.
Lama Su and Nala Se are more middle ground, right? And like the Empire is there, and like you start to see like the shades start turning to red, to the darkness, right? They're in the middle. And Lama Su and Nama Se, I think like in the story wise, they're not really big draws. But if they find out that they made a clone, right, who is force sensitive, they're going to want that DNA without telling the Empire, thus creating a third interested party who's trying their hardest to get Omega, right? So then it's like, oh, we need to get Omega, capture Omega, take this, and we can make more force-sensitive clones to keep in business for the Empire. But we can't let the Empire know because they might circumvent it. Or at least not let the Empire know, not let Rampage know, right? Is that his name?
Oh, Rampart.
Yeah, not let the new Rampart guy. So then Rampart and Lama Su, they're both fighting each other to get to Omega. One to kill Omega, one to capture Omega to make more clones. I can see this really fleshing out, being really beautiful. And if this is not the case, Dave Filoni, get me a call. I might not be the right guy, but at least I can help you do some creative ideas.
What about me?
I mean, I'll bring Chris.
It's my idea.
I'll bring Chris. He's good. We work better together. All right.
But like also the other aspect is, you know, like what you were saying too, right? Do the Kaminoans know how to do this already in some form if Omega's kind of like the original prototype A of this?
Well, she could be a happy accident, you know?
Exactly, right? But happy accident that they know how to do it and they haven't told the Empire, because look at everything that's happened in 3 episodes with the Empire, right?
Yeah.
You had Nala say, let Omega escape, and she left the doors open so that the Bad Batch can escape with her. Mm-hmm. Clearly, they're not fully on board with what the Empire is doing, with what the Empire's new motives are. So if they know how to make Force-sensitive clones, or they're like, hey, we think we know how to do this now, that could be something like, hey, this isn't part of our contract. We're doing this on the side for ourselves.
Yeah,
to figure it out.
They need to keep alive,
now,
you know?
It might be a latch-ditch effort of, we have to make it for them, but is there some way, kind of like the inhibitor chip, that we can control them in case the Empire gets too crazy out of line? So that's going to be an interesting avenue to see as well.
Well, guys, that's all of our crazy theories for the Bad Batch. If Force-sensitive clones are coming, let us know down in the comments below if you think we're going to get some Jedi clones.
And guys, thanks so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, really helps the channel out a lot. If you're brand new, subscribe, turn on those notifications. You don't miss any more Bad Batch talk or any of the Star Wars or anything else we do. And make sure to check out other videos on the channel. And as always, I'm Chris Heller. That is Rob Moran. We are the Jersey Comic Crew, and we will see you next time.